Today's video is going to be about tree stands and tree stand preparation. It is September 20th, 21st. So why am I up here so early working on my tree stands? That's what today's video is about. Good evening. My name's Tom. I come to you from the Rustic log cabin here in northern Maine. It's about what, 4:30 in the afternoon, almost 5, and I'm getting ready to have some supper. I've got a package of deer steaks left over from last fall, so I'm going to enjoy the heck out of those. But while I was just hanging around here at the cabin, I figured we'd talk a little bit about tree stands and tree stand preparation. That's what I'm up here for right now. We're in the second week of September, something like that. I think, what was today? Today would be September 21st. So what I'm doing up here right now is I am preparing my tree stands. And some of the things that I'm doing is quite critical that it get done this far in advance. And that's what I thought today's video would, what I would touch on. Now the first thing in placing a stand, a tree stand, that's another reason for being up here in September. I've been up here for a week now, scouting. And what I'm looking for is mature buck sign. Now it is a little early, so your scrapes and stuff like that aren't going to matter a whole lot at this point. But at least you're getting out there and you're figuring out what's going on for this year. Each year is a little bit different. So by coming up and doing some preseason scouting here in September, I will scout a little bit this month, I will scout a little bit next month, and I will have, it is absolutely critical that you have all of your tree stand work preparation done 2 to 3 weeks before the season. After that, before opening day, that 2 to 3 weeks, you don't want to go anywhere near your tree stand that you plan on setting in. Stay away from it. Stay clear of it. Get absolutely everything done before season. 2 to 3 weeks. 3 weeks for me. I won't go near them tree stands at least 3 weeks before opening day. Not even close. Here's another one of those critical things for me and how I hunt. It is absolutely critical during your scouting season leading up to deer season, which is right now, September, October, and then we start hunting here in November. All right, so what's critical about finding a tree stand in the month of September, finding a location that you're going to use for a tree stand? It is absolutely critical that you find deer runs, that where you can find 3, 4, 5 deer runs that will meet on where they meet. They won't meet exactly, but where is the most of them? And for me, if I can find at least 3, I want 3. If I can get 5, even better. Even if they're, 100 feet apart, 200 feet apart. You got a deer run coming in here and a deer run coming in here. I'll tell you what, I'll put the board up and I'll show you what I mean by critical spots to find during your scouting, preseason scouting. All right, what do I mean by these runs and all that stuff? Well, I'm going to give you an example of one of the spots that I hunt, and I've taken a lot of deer from it. This is all woods over here. And here I got some real lot of swale grass, thorns, thorny apple trees, and over here we got some woods. And here, and over here we got is where a really good feeding ground is. So coming out of here, I have got a run that comes across. Now this run right here has nothing on it. It's just a straight run down through it. So it comes from the bedding area to the feeding area. And my tree stand is right here. It's about 75 yards. I have a video. that I put up that has me setting in the tree stand. This is only one run, but this is the main run. This swale grass and all this thorny stuff, the deer bed in there, but then they step out and come across. But what I have is over here. I'm going to use a different marker. Just up here, maybe 200 feet. I've got a run that comes in here. Right here, there's another run. And then as it goes this way, same deal. We got another run, and so on as you go out through there. There's like 5 runs over here that are all coming in this way. And they're going down this main feeder trail. Now from here, right here, to right here, maybe 200 yards at the most. And they cross the road and go into the feeding grounds. On this run right here, there is more than one animal that uses it. I have taken a bear. Right here is a tree. I took a bear right there while I was deer hunting. No bait. The very next year, I took a 9-point buck. Now, the deer come through, and you know how deer hunting is. He had his nose on the ground, he was trucking right along. I shot the deer over in here. This is my run. I first saw him. Up here I can see. I missed the second run. What I mean by that is there's windows. You have 3 windows, usually from a tree stand that you can hunt. I saw him. Here I could see that he was a shooter buck. Up here they have to be a buck, but I want a mature buck. And then my last window was over here. So this is where I shot. Again, probably about 75 yards, no more than that. But what I'm trying to point out here in this video is, this is the main run. All of these were other runs that bring the deer in from the back country, and they all ended up on this run right here. That's what makes this run so good for deer hunting and for a tree stand placement. A tree stand like this, you can hunt out of it year after year after year. The only thing you have to pay attention to is wind direction. If the wind is out of this direction, you never want to hunt that tree stand, because your wind is going to blow right across all of these runs, and they're going to know you're there from a mile away. So what you want to do is, before you go set in a stand like this, is make sure the wind is out of this direction, so that or this direction, so that the wind is blowing your scent the way the deer are going, or the wind is keeping the scent away from the deer. And then you could sit there a couple nights in a row. Usually I don't have to. Usually something will come through fairly quick for me. Now over in this area here, I told you there was many things that moved down this trail. About a half a mile in that direction is a small pond. And in that pond is where moose hang out. It's where they get their water. It's where they can get cooled off, all that kind of stuff. So I've seen moose coming down this trail, bear and deer. You have to be very careful when you're hunting in that stand. Make sure of your target, because I'll tell you what, when there's moose coming through and all you can see is little pieces of him, you might think it's a big old buck, big old swamp buck. Then he steps out where you can see him a little bit more, and then you find out it's not a swamp buck. In this state, you need a permit to be able to take a moose, so it's critical that you know your target. And that could be a human for that matter, so know your target before you squeeze the trigger. Here's point number 3. Point number 2 was critical to find your location. Point number 3 is, Point number 3 is hunt the feeding grounds unless you can find fresh sign. If you have no fresh sign, then the deer are always going to come to the feeding grounds. Always, always, always. When you're doing your scouting, if that fresh sign's not there, then you need to look for a feeding ground, and preferably something that's between the bedding ground and the feeding ground. I've always had my best luck on feeding grounds because I find that they're a lot easier to hunt, give or take. If you haven't found fresh sign anywhere in your area, or it's a new area that you're going to hunt, you're scouting it out for the first time, sometimes there's things that happen to your hunting ground just before deer season, so you have to have a plan B, because it could be anything from, in this state, from cutting woods to almost anything could come in and start disturbing your hunt without you knowing it, and you show up opening day and now your hunting season is blown because of what's happening in your piece of woods. So that's something to really keep in mind as you're choosing your tree stand spot. So always hunt the feeding grounds. If you can't find any fresh sign, any mature buck sign, let the does come in, and then let the does do the work for you, and let that buck trail in along behind them. Whatever you do, do not spook those does. Let them does come in, leave them alone. You don't want them raising their tail, you don't want anything. You want that doe to just come on through and go out into the field or out into the feeding ground and do what they always do naturally. And then that buck will trail along behind more times than not. So if you like what you've seen today in this video, subscribe to the channel. I put out 2 videos a week on Sunday and Monday, and they both come out at 6 o'clock in the morning here in the state of Maine, however that works out for your time frame. But I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.